Often when asked about crime and trash in our city, politicians answer with catchphrases like increase the pressure and partner with the community. Do you have a clear objective and articulable plan to reduce crime and clean up Houston?
Excellent question. I'm uniquely qualified to address public safety as chairman of criminal justice. I've been endorsed by the police department's unions. Police want to go to work for Mayor Whitmire. What we have to do is hold violent offenders accountable, help the non-violent offenders turn their lives around. I have a very clear record of being tough and smart on crime. I strongly believe and have a record across this country of locking up people you're afraid of, not those that you're mad at. We've got to increase the numbers of our police officers. We've got to have collaboration with the 85 plus police agencies that are in the city of Houston. I know from day one I can improve public safety in the city of Houston. It is the reason I'm running for office, along with infrastructure and city services. Thank you. I know day one police officers are going to go to work knowing that John Whitmire will back them up if they follow the law and their training and hold them accountable if they abuse someone. Excellent question.
You need to get an answer that directly responds to your question. Here's my approach. First of all, let me tell you what the federal government has done in collaboration with my work as a senior member and chair of the Crime Committee and Judiciary. We've got 70 new federal prosecutors, 70 indictments of violent gangs, prosecutors coming to help us prosecute. The federal government collaborating directly with the Houston Police Department of getting violent criminals off the street, but moving into the federal system, which is much faster, though we believe in fairness. Then I will target neighborhoods where the high crime is, show the visibility, clean up that high target area. I'm not a judge or a prosecutor. I want to get the violent criminals off the street. I can turn it over to that system. But at the same time, right here we have the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, the drug enforcement, we have the FBI. They're all waiting to collaborate under Mayor Jackson Lee with our Houston Police Department and the police at the school districts, the police and the sheriffs and the constables, working together and then providing the necessary wraparound services to help those who are in desperate need of those kinds of services. We'll clean up crime because we have an action to do it.
And you're both welcome to stay seated if you like. I know, particularly with the wireless microphones, it may be easier for you to sit while responding.
Now, staying on the topic of infrastructure, when Harris County passed a $2 billion bond for flood projects after Hurricane Harvey, the city never did. Given the increase in hurricanes in recent years, does the city need to consider increasing its spending on flood control projects? And if so, where would the money come from? Congresswoman, can we start with you?
Well, let me say that this is work that I've already done. I've indicated that as a member of Congress, I asked to have done an Army Corps of Engineers assessment of how bad flooding is in Houston. Of course, I could go to a neighborhood and they would tell me. But we wanted to get the facts. We wanted to work factually with the Harris County Flood District and as well to work with the city and county. First, drainage fees will be used for what they're supposed to do, for the repair of streets and dealing with our flooding. But then secondarily, we will be able to get a package from the infrastructure dollars, 1.7 trillion. They will still exist in 24, 25, and 26. I plan to put together a plan that will be regional with some of our smaller cities to address the ongoing connected flood crisis in our community. I started doing it in terms of collaborating with the Harris County Flood District by giving money to Green Bayou. We lost 6 people during Hurricane Harvey, and to other bodies. So the issue is, you've got a plan, you know how to work with the state government, and you know how to work with the federal government. The federal government is producing, they will be helping the city on this infrastructure concern.
Thank you. Senator Whitmire.
Well, that flood control bond issue was passed primarily by Houstonians. So we have to monitor the flood control district plans and how they implement it. But there again, it's about networking with other levels of government. Certainly we need to partner with the county. And there again, as I mentioned, we've got to work with the state to get its resources. So first is about identifying the problem. We know flooding is there. I want to suggest that maintenance is a major role for the flood control district and the city of Houston. How many of us know 2-inch rains will prevent us from going down thoroughfares? It's because the clippings and the brush and illegal dumping, there's just a lot of quality of life services that can improve the flow.
Speaking of mobility, we know it's difficult to get around the city of Houston without a car. We have a question from a university student about how you would address mobility. Senator Whitmire, the question is for you.
Well, certainly mobility is on everyone's mind, has always been.
We have a question on audio. Sorry.
Hello, my name is Ian Patrick, and I'm a student at the University of Houston downtown. My question for the mayoral candidates is that Houston is cited as being one of the most car-dependent cities in America, with swaths of expanded highway networks and flatlines. With this, there is a lot of traffic jams, and while there is a public transit system, it is appalling in the face of not only other public transit systems in America, but across the world. So, what would be your solution to making Houston more walkable, as well as creating less density within our highways?
Well, certainly mobility is a critical issue. We all know that on a daily basis. So what we have to do, to the gentleman's question, is not waste any time nor waste resources. Metro will always play a key role in our transit system. I think Metro needs to listen to its residents and its taxpayers. I don't think that they can decide for all of us with just a small board. Certainly they've had elections implementing their plans, but that was prior to COVID. So we need to plan for walkability, we need to plan for safety, but more importantly, we've got to plan with TxDOT in a regional system. I want to emphasize this, what is mobility or flood control, is we have to work with our surrounding counties. We have to have a regional mass transit plan, and certainly a regional flood control issue. We are growing and got to anticipate it.
Congressman?
Houston, thank you for the question, is the fourth largest city in the nation. Whenever we mention transportation and metro, I'm still trying to find out what my opponent's position is. My position is that metro is a vital link to the definition and the mobility of this city. It is a vital link to those custodians who have two jobs, are not able to have any form of transportation such as a car. They depend on Metro bus, and to a certain extent, Metro rail. We can add to the mobility by working with Metro, as we have done, for bike lanes and walking capacity. But I cannot see this city moving forward without a partnership again with the federal government to ensure that we get more resources to expand our rail, to make sure that our bus system goes in our neighborhoods for those who are really trying to make ends meet. I will be the kind of mayor that will lead on transit. I will not gut Metro for other reasons.
This year, Houston City Council approved $81 million to fix water leaks in the city's infrastructure. And yet, between June and September, the city received more than 19,000 calls for water leaks. With limited resources, how do you prioritize an increasingly expensive problem that threatens to put the city further underwater? Congressman.
Well, I almost thought I would go out and fix the leaks myself. That's how anxious I am to deal with when I see a grandmother or an elderly gentleman or family talking about a $400, $500 water bill. We know some work is beginning through City Council in the last couple of days that will be looked at. Here's my approach. One, we have a broken and antiquated infrastructure on the water system. We need to look to revenue. In this instance, I would look to the private equity community. They are inclined to look at special projects to invest in helping the city expand and correct those problems of a leaky system, along with federal dollars. but I would attack it immediately. By analyzing the system, I would also respond immediately to the burden of water bills, and we would find a way to give relief to those individuals who simply just cannot afford it. I am the kitchen table issue mayor, and I will hear you, and I will help you.
Well, first we have to quit kicking the can down the road. This is not a new issue. It's taken years to get to this point, but we've just said enough. So we will not waste city funds. We will not be giving contracts to ghost companies, startup companies that operate with no staff out of an apartment. So cut out the conflicts of interest that are in the way of having the best resources. We've got to partner with the county and certainly use the state. I mentioned the relationship with the state. We have a surplus in Austin. Dallas and other major cities are receiving benefits, but we don't have that relationship that's so critical going forward. So we've got to look at every level of government for additional resources and not waste some on conflicts of interest, startup companies that don't even have a staff. Quite frankly, that's reprehensible, and thank the press for bringing it to our attention.
Speaking of the press, bringing things to people's attention, Houston Chronicle recently published investigative profiles on both of you. We'll start with you, Senator Whitmire. Chronicle reported that you accepted an $80,000 consulting contract from Harris County to explain changes to laws you helped pass. You performed legal work for the owners of a halfway house that benefited from laws you helped pass, and you secured a $40,000 federal lobbying contract from the Houston Firefighters Pension Fund months after you sponsored legislation that the fund supported. How can voters trust you won't mix lawmaking and personal business as mayor?
The major difference is when I'm mayor, I'll be a full-time mayor. I will not have a law practice. Much of the Chronicle issues I can dispute, but it's not necessary. It involves the practice of law. Most of the allegations arrived in previous campaigns. We make $600 a month as a senator. We're expected to have a law practice. We have doctors, realtors. You have to have civilian jobs. And that's where most of that was arrived at. Full compliance with state ethics regulations, full disclosure of financial statement, and I'm proud of my record of 50 years as a public official, starting at 22. Never been charged with anything. Yes, political attacks do come in this tough business of politics. But I will be a full-time, non-lawyer practicing mayor. It will be a full-time job.
Congresswoman, the Chronicle's profile really focused on your management style, which came into sharp review after the leaked audio recording. In the Chronicle piece, one former staffer described you as emotionally bruising. Employers in your office stayed around 7.5 months, much shorter than the year-long stints of other Houston area representatives. Some former employees the Chronicles interviewed said you had a habit of rebuking and berating, but others said you taught them to work under pressure and to develop a thick skin. The story also points out that other women in politics, particularly women in color, have faced similar criticisms. Your response to that, and can you give us an example of how your management style has motivated employees?
I am concerned about getting the job done. My issue and my concern in my years of service has not been to enhance my wealth. It has been to push power out to the constituents, get the job done. And so, incidences that may have been recorded or reported, I don't recall. But what I do recall is embracing staff where we've worked together. Specifically, for example, during Hurricane Harvey, a staff was stupendous in helping to those constituents who were in need. Way back in Hurricane Katrina, my staff was out working with those survivors who came over. Working with school districts, where we tried to save the schools from being taken over. My staff was involved in the research and the outreach to the Department of Education, Department of Justice. We've done great things together. We've dealt with the issue of criminal justice reform. We have done great legislation, finally the Violence Against Women Act. So, my management style has seen my staff catapult to leadership positions in the administration and in the private sector.